Now I will take any questions that you may have with regard to this situation.
Assuming, talking about the letter of resignation, that you believe it was his responsibility to turn that over to the prosecutor's office first?
The mayor is the titular head of the Democratic Party in Allen County, very similar to the position that Barack Obama has for the National Party. The highest elected official is seen as the leader of that organization. In this instance, even though the mayor may have not had any legal ability to force Sandy Kennedy to resign or to take any action through the legal process, he certainly, as the highest ranking Democrat official in Allen County, had the ability to communicate his concerns to the next highest ranking political leader in the Democratic Party in Allen County. He did nothing.
You went a little bit beyond that, though, in your statement. You said Henry condoned it. What do you base that?
In law, when someone is asked to admit something and there is no response within a particular amount of time, it is deemed admitted, and the truthfulness of that fact stands. In this instance, Mayor Henry did nothing, and by standing silent for over a month, or for at least a month, after receiving that report, he in essence implicitly condoned that conduct.
But the letter didn't specifically talk about, help Angie's campaign or be fired. It talked about kind of vague accusations and other things.
It was certainly implied the fact that the individuals who were asked to contribute to the Davis campaign would be without a job on January 1st if the Republican was elected. That certainly, from a legal standpoint, isn't necessarily true. And from a political standpoint, it is a violation of Indiana election laws to make the condition of future employment contingent upon giving a contribution.
Steve, this is obviously a very shocking situation. I've heard people talk about this is stunning because she has been so well respected. Maybe there's a health concern, maybe some other ramifications. But what I hear from you is there is a pattern of behavior at some level that predates this.
The Sandy Kennedy that you may know and the public knows is not the same Sandy Kennedy who holds the office of city clerk. She has used brute political force in her office and run the Democrat city clerk's office as a, if you will, an arm of the Democratic Party. It's obvious by raising funds in that way. She has given her office address as her address for her campaign headquarters. That in itself is very telling. And I understand, even though this is only a hearsay, that there had been some issues with regard to the issuance of a cell phone to her office and some extraordinary charges on those. That, again, is nothing that I have any evidence other than reports that when the city clerk's office received some stipend for cell phones, that it has been a little bit over the top.
The mayor has said that these are separately elected offices and they're independent of one another. What would you say to that reaction from him?
I would say that ethics and adherence to the law cuts across any office, who is ever in the office. The mayor had an obligation to tell Sandy, as basically his co-partner in leading the Allen County Democratic Party, that her actions were unethical and probably illegal.
Steve, just for the record, is there any connection between the tape and your office, the Republican Party, or any other Republican candidate on the ballot?
Absolutely, unequivocally not. Had no knowledge of this situation, and when I heard about it, I think it was the media who asked me to respond to it.
It sounds like there's some confusion as far as Angie Davis and Sandy, what classifications they are, and exactly what Mayor Henry has power over them with regard to certain things. Is that something that maybe muddied the waters and is something that needs to be taken into consideration in response?
I don't know if it muddies the waters, but it certainly says something to someone's character if they are in a leadership position not to tell one of their co-elected officials that their actions were not only harmful to the trust of the public in city government, but also damaging politically. As we see now, the mayor's inaction has led to this fiasco with Angie Davis and Sandy Kennedy. And somebody also brought up, it was you, Steve, who brought up about confusion between the role of Sandy Kennedy and Angie Davis. And let me just say this, throughout that entire video, Angie Davis is compliant by saying nothing while she is next to Sandy Kennedy. In essence, she is co-conspiring to raise funds for her campaign while Sandy Kennedy is actually out there as the bag woman.
Giaquinta says the interpretation of this video is wrong. She meant that if a Republican is elected, then jobs will be lost. They've never fired anybody in her 32 years in office. Your response to that?
The video speaks for itself. When one is told that they need to give money to protect their jobs, or that they will not have a job if the Republican wins in January, and that is coupled with soliciting funds for a fundraiser, it's implicit and almost explicit as what is going on. I would beg to differ with Mr. Giaquinta. He knows that the kind of demonstrative evidence in a courtroom where one can show a tape is perhaps the most telling of all evidence. And I would invite anyone to go to your respective websites. I'm sure you all have them on. I know the New Sentinel does, the Journal, and no doubt both Wayne and WPTA will have it by the end of the day. But the video speaks volumes for itself. Other questions?
What time frame would you like to see a response from the Henry administration about this?
I think the allegations are so serious that the resignation should be effective at the end of the day today. And on top of that, it is too late for Angie Davis to ask for her name to be removed from the ballot as the Democrat for city clerk. But she should make a pledge that if elected, she will not serve in that office because she has already shown that she does not know the difference between right and wrong by not challenging what her superior was doing. In fact, by being right there, present next to Sandy Kennedy, while funds were being solicited for the Angie Davis fundraiser, that in itself, to me, shows that Sandy Kennedy and Angie Davis were in complicity to be able to break the election laws of the state of Indiana.
You mentioned that the Republican Party didn't have anything to do with the release of the videos, but some would say you're definitely trying to score points politically with this and to turn this into a political event of some sort. What would you say to that?
It's politics, okay? It's just like a job review. If you don't perform well at your job, someone is going to be critical of that and suggest that you either remediate the problems which you are causing or to be terminated. There's no difference in public office. If an official is breaking the law or acting unethically, it is either my position or the position of the public or anyone who is concerned about that to come forward to suggest that the taxpayers' money is being abused by politicking on city time. It's politics, and that's, it's, call it what you may, but it's an issue involving the public trust. And it falls back to other leaders to call attention to that. Who's going to call attention to it? The person who goes in and pays their $15 or $20, or in some cases using a handicap spot, $100 fine? They don't know this is going on. They deserve to know this. And it's important for other leaders such as myself or anyone else who wanted to step forward and call attention to this to bring it to the forefront.
Steve, some are even saying this is nothing more than pulling something from the Republican bag of tricks, a October surprise to get more momentum in the mayor's race.
I don't see it as a October surprise at all. If you want to talk about October surprises, the mayor is doing everything possible to use the taxpayers' dollars to pull his own taxpayer to October surprise. And when I say that, look at all the road improvement projects. I mean, look at what has happened in this city in this election year of 2015. It's impossible to find a road that hasn't been paved. What happened to the last 8 years is what I would like to know. Look at some of the other things. The announcement of a developer for the housing complex at the Ash Brokerage, that happens 2 weeks before the election. That is not a contrived effort. I see a lot of these things as being contrived. I was not the one who solicited the funds for the Angie Davis fundraiser, okay? If she would have done this back in February, it would have been a March surprise. I didn't have anything to do with the timing. It was their actions. It was an independent individual who came forward at this time. So whether it happened in October or February, I didn't control that. But I'm not going to wait, if it broke 2 days ago, until the middle of January to comment on it.
Giaquinta
Who?
He says that he doesn't condone it, but talking politics and talking campaign in the office, it happens.
It happens, but let me just tell you something. The relationship between Sandy Kennedy and Mark Giaquinta is very close. I would say he's extremely biased in his comments, and he would be the one person in the public view who would be able to cover for her by damping down the severity of what has happened. I would expect nothing less from Mark Giaquinta than to support his longtime friend, someone who Sandy has indicated in publicly many times, and vice versa, of their great relationship. So don't look to Mark Giaquinta for any unbiased comments on what's happening.
The city ethics code would have prevented or prohibited this kind of activity, but the elected clerk is not covered by it. If we have a Republican mayor in January, would you want him to change that loophole?
When we have a Republican mayor in January, I think that was what your question was, yes.
I'll stick with it.
I would urge the Republican elected officials to take a look at as what has happened, and to make sure that regardless if you're a city employee working in the street department, in the mayor's office, many water pollution control, whatever it is, you should be covered under the same rules and not be exempted or not covered in the city clerk's office just because you're a different division. And that's the same theory, if you will, of my thinking of why the mayor, having had a month's notice of this inappropriate action, that he could have picked up the phone and said, "What's going on down there?" None of that. I've heard nothing of that. In fact, this is what happens when you have a Democrat city administration for going now on 20 years. It breeds contempt, it breeds mischief, and it breeds misguided conduct. For, at the very least, a switch up, if you will, in the Democrat city administration, whether it's in the mayor's office or the city clerk's office, is necessary to preserve the integrity of government. Anything else? Thank you.